I think we're actually ready. The house is full. Welcome everybody to TEDx 17. I'm super excited to be here. So welcome to everybody here in the room and welcome to everybody who's following the live stream. As you know, Sedex is all about supply chains, and they're so crazy about supply chains that I actually decided to ethically source me all the way from Denmark. And I don't really need a CSR report or a certification to prove that. I mean, blue eyes, blonde hair, tall, screams Viking. But it also kind of explains the dialect, so I do hope you listen to what I mean rather than what I say, okay, please? Good. So dealing with supply chains, it's kind of like having teenagers, right? You do your best to nurture them, you do your best to educate them, but you just know they're going to give you trouble. Isn't that true? Yeah. So a little bit about myself. I'm the author of Goodvertising and the director of the Goodvertising agency. So we're based out of Copenhagen, but we work with clients globally and try to get them to work that fine line between marketing and sustainability. And quite often I talk about how marketing is from Mars and sustainability is from Venus, and how it's so difficult to bridge that gap. And I think one thing that I learned for almost 17 years in marketing is that something is dramatically changing. It's almost like that power is slipping away from the brands into the hands of the consumer. So if you think about it, today 7 billion people on the planet, but 2 billion of those are armed with an iPhone, ready to criticize or ready to applaud everything that you do. And just the other day, I walked in Copenhagen, and outside this little coffee shop, there was a sign saying, "Coffee served by hand." Almost to kind of ridicule a lot of the transparency work that we're doing. But I think it's this tough balance between telling the story and the whole story, and the fact that we just know that we're all just so super busy. And I think especially for the bigger brands in this room, this is a very hard line. And I think especially as trust in big business is kind of plummeting. I'm sure that most of you have heard the Harvard's Meaningful Brand Survey that says that the majority of people don't care whether half of the brands of today disappear or not. So that means half of you people in the room representing brands, they don't care whether you're around or not. So that's a tough challenge for brands. And at the same time, I think there's this tendency for people to shop locally, everything needs to be sourced locally and to made locally. So I think when we look at sustainability reports and look at certification, how do we deal with that? I mean, because the thing is, when I go into my little local corner store, I don't need that stuff. I actually trust that guy, and it comes by his first name. So it's a difficult time. I think that's why this year's theme is really continuous improvement in practice. Or as my mother would say, it's okay, Thomas, you'll do better next year. That's always what she's saying, very comforting. And I've got to say, in many aspects, you got the worst jobs in sustainability. You really do. I mean, you are the politicians of sustainability. If you do really, really well and you've done your job the best way possible, you might get a second term. But as soon as the shit hits the fan, everybody is going to point a finger at you, and you're going to be blamed for all the ills of this world. Whether that is child labor, whether that is how truck drivers sleep and eat, it's all your fault. So I think an important message here today is let's not be like the politicians, okay? Let's not just talk. I think it's important that we turn words into actions here today. So I'm going to introduce one little magic word, and it's called I will. It's really simple. So when you go into a session, you hear some stuff, then take that little I will word and turn those lessons into action. So I will embrace technology to understand my supply chains better. I will educate my stakeholders internally. So use that little I will word. So a little bit of housekeeping. So to kind of understand some of the challenges that you are facing, I want to introduce the app. Have all of you downloaded the Sedex app? Good, okay. So what I want to know is, what is the most, so in that app, there's a live polling section. So please go into that live polling section right now. And if you haven't downloaded the app, please go on to sedex17.com and download the app. But what I want to know is, what is the most pressing issue where you need inspiration, advice, or help over the next 2 days? And it's got to be almost like a multiple choice thing, but choose the one that is the most pressing. And if we can just see the live results coming in, please. Could we see the results, please? Some. Apparently not. Oh, yes, there they are. So please go into the live polling section and you can see. I think Jonathan is probably going to pick up on the Sedex membership one afterwards, right? But please, everyone, go and put your vote down. What is the most pressing issue where you need help over the next 2 days? Is this just because people aren't really answering the poll right now, or is it because people just want to know everything about environmental impacts and getting the most out of the Sedex membership? It's not working? There's, hopefully there's like a little refresh button up there in the top. You need to log in. Good, okay, everybody's looking at me. I'm not the tech expert. I'm sure that we're going to take hand of this afterwards. But let's just jump on and do a little bit more of the housekeeping while the rest of you do the poll. So this conference wouldn't be possible without the sponsors, so a big thank to all the sponsors up here. Thank you so much. And also a big thank you to all the media partners and all the exhibitors. Do make sure that you go and see some of the exhibitions. There's lots of exciting inspiration that you can bring with you home. Today's program, full of super exciting stuff. And as you can see, the day is going to be wrapped up with a drinks reception. And for those of you who are going to join the VIP dinner tonight. A little bit about tomorrow's program. We're going to start at 9 o'clock, and for those of you who are really early birds, I think coffee will be served from 8:30. And we're going to go on to about 5 o'clock. But there's also a big news this year, because Sedex has decided to create the Sedex Award. And I think awards are important because awards inspire us and they celebrate those who push us forward. And in many ways, awards are like marks in school. They remind the winners, those who got the high marks, why they're so cool and clever. And kind of the rest of us, why we need to work harder. So again, back to my mother's words, it's okay, Thomas, you'll do better next year.